Hey guys and girls, how's it going? Hope you guys are having a great week. So we are back today with, I guess, a gaming news video. I haven't done one of these in a while, but yeah, I wanted to talk about this. For you that might not know, I have been playing Helldivers 2 for the last couple of weeks, I guess, and absolutely love the game. And there were some huge events that happened basically over the weekend, which was just insane. Like, it hit Friday night, and then I went away all weekend, and it's the first chance I've had to sit down and actually record and actually talk about this. And I'm actually joined by some friends today. So I have my Helldivers squad with me. So I'll introduce you all, guys. So obviously I've got, Dante. He's here with us today.
Yo.
We also have Fish.
Hello.
We also have Edge.
Yo.
And we also have a new friend to the channel, which is Strife. Do you prefer Strife or Sean? Which is better? Strife. Okay, so we also have Strife with us today as well. He is basically our commander-in-chief for Helldivers. In Strife, we do trust. In Edge, we trust to get us killed, basically.
Whoa, I'm not that bad.
You have clearly not seen some of the videos that we've put up with the poor drops that I put us in.
I trust
Edge. I trust Edge to drop us in on a map more than I trust myself.
Okay, well, I do have video evidence, but I wanted to talk about Helldivers 2 today and generally talk about the news surrounding this. So I'll start off by just covering actually what happened. So basically, a couple of days ago, Sony basically released a tweet where they announced that from May the 6th, all new players to Helldivers 2 on PC would be forced to basically create or link to an active PlayStation Network account, and that all existing players would have to do this also by the 30th of May, and that if you did not do that, you basically lost contact with the game. You lost the ability to play the game. They announced that on Twitter. Arrowhead, to be clear, had nothing to do with this. This was something that came from Sony, and it was Sony mandated. And I'm sure you guys are aware, but the backlash against this news was insane. And to be fair, I'm not surprised because the Helldivers 2 community are very on the ball. That is what the game encourages, quick response. And they most definitely did respond to this news very, very quickly in terms of making their anger and dissatisfaction really, really heard. Within the first couple of hours of the announcement, there were over 14,000 negative reviews on Steam, and that number actually ballooned to 200,000 negative reviews on Steam, basically taking the game from an overwhelmingly positive rating to an overwhelmingly negative rating. Then a few days later, one of the biggest consequences to this was mostly in those countries that don't even have PSN. And what happened is, I think this was Valve's choice. I don't know if this was Valve's decision, but basically the game was no longer purchasable in 170 countries that didn't support PSN. And a lot of people went to Steam, went to Valve for refunds, and Valve basically waived their usual policy, which is that you can't get a review on a game if you've played it for more than 2 hours. And some people that have played the game for hundreds of hours actually got a full refund. It was insane, absolutely insane. And I really was not expecting Sony to cave. But basically on the 6th of May, on Monday, Sony released an official announcement to say that they were basically taking back their initial policy or decision, and that it would basically be, it would no longer be mandated. So they said that they had heard the community, they had learned, because this is new, obviously Sony being in PC gaming, they had learned from the experience and that they were basically not going to follow through on it. So the basic news started and ended within about 3 or 4 days. So the news has come and gone, but what I wanted to do today was talk about our thoughts on it, on the news that happened, on how we felt in terms of what was announced when we first heard about it, how Sony dealt with it, how Arrowhead dealt with it, how the community dealt with it, and our thoughts on it in general. So who wants to kick off? What did you guys think about this news when you heard about it? Any ideas?
My initial gut reaction, I think, was the Christ, another account to link and have. I mean, it's not that much of an inconvenience for me because I already have a PSN account. As you know, I'm sure that all of us on this call, we're pretty much all cross-platform gamers in one way or another. So, in that respect, not a big deal. I can understand why people who don't already have a PSN account would be upset by it.
Yeah.
My second kind of initial reaction was, again, well, the PC gamers are going to be upset about this, which, whether that is right for them to be upset or not, the fact is it's Sony calling the shots on this one, so it's their choice to do with as they please. My third and final point was more really not the initial gut reaction, but more the fallout from it, which was that if, with it being mandatory that you need to link the PSN account, seeing how countries who did not have access to PSN but did have access to buy Helldivers basically just meant you can't play this game. For me, just seemed incredibly poorly thought out. Clearly, two parts of one organisation are not talking to each other.
Yeah, for sure. I think the game shouldn't, because in the Steam page initially, it did state that it was a requirement of the game that you would have to link to a PSN account, and they only waived that because when the game released, that the having to log in to the PSN account was what was causing the issues where people couldn't play online. So they basically made it like a voluntary thing, so you didn't have to do it so that people could actually get into the game. And then obviously this has been brought in later, but I 100% agree with you, Fish. Like, it should never have even been on sale in those countries that do not have PSN. And I think it's shocking that it was. I agree with you 100% on that one. I think that was really, really kind of poor on Sony's behalf. Obviously, like Strife and Edge, you guys have been playing Helldivers longer. So I know you guys play on PlayStation. You don't play on PC. So what were your thoughts about it? Did you kind of not really care, or were you kind of interested in what happened? And how
I was more interested in the drama, to be fair, because it is one of those things that when the gaming community actually band together, and this is a prime example of it, we are an absolute unstoppable force. And it's been absolutely fantastic to see it. I've even got goosebumps just sort of thinking about it, actually. But it is one of those things that, again, like you've mentioned, we both play on PS5, so it made absolutely no difference to us whatsoever. But at the same time, banding together with the community and the memes that have come out from it, it's like we dive together or we don't dive at all. And it just shows what we can do when we all act together. One sort of game which has the potential to end the console wars, and I've been saying this for ages. If they do talks with Xbox and we get our Halo ODST community in as well, that's it. Console wars are over. But it is 100%. It is a case that we can go against a big corporation and we can still win. Yeah.
I think the only other occasion I can think where this movement in this rapid and this visceral was probably Star Wars Battlefront 2. You know, when that released with all the loot boxes and everything, and the sheer visceral kind of outrage on that and all the review bombing, that also got EA to change their tune on that as well. So it is, I agree, it's so cool to see the community, and I think it's really wholesome now because obviously they review bomb the community, and I think review bombs can get action, can force action, obviously. I think a large part of the reason for Sony taking action too is probably we don't know how many refunds were actually issued. We don't know how much money they lost with the 170 countries requesting refunds and obviously not being available for sale. So I'd be curious to see what those, I don't know if we'll find those figures out or what was the main sort of motivating drive. But the really nice wholesome thing now is the community are doing this, is it Operation Cleanup they're doing now? Which is basically to restore the review score of the game to get it back to overwhelmingly positive. So they're now basically like just throwing positive reviews at the game to try and get it back to really what it rightfully deserves, because Helldivers 2 is a fantastic game. Like, it's such a good game. And it's incredibly fun to play. So I was more sad for the developers, because they've made such an amazing game and they really did not deserve like all of that review bombing and everything that was going on.
They were on board with that.
I know, which is awesome for them.
The CEO actually, or one of the community devs actually said, continue the review bombing because it gives us a pull against Sony.
Yeah, and it obviously worked, which is great. And it's really unusual to see a developer. It's kind of ballsy, because like Arrowhead Studios are only a small, like, Swedish independent developer. They only have like, I think like just over 100 staff, so they're really small. But to see them,
I think what you've just said there's a really important thing, because I've been saying it for a long time, and I know I've mentioned it several times on your channel about how things such as pre-order bonuses and games launching in an unfit state, basically, and studios are never held accountable for it at all. It's another thing which we're eventually supporting, and I think this is, again, it's one of those positive steps to go, yeah, look, we are actually paying attention now. Whatever you say, this is you're gonna be held accountable for your poor business practices. Yeah. I think another part of what you've just said also rings true, that yes, this is Sony's decision, and that it's always a decision by the studio. It's never a decision by the developer. It's always, let's get this out the door, and it's these studios that we really need to be showing up, while at the same time making it very clear to the publishers, so we're not ending up in situations like Microsoft are doing. And I know it's another topic for another day. But
I'm doing a video on that, believe me.
But to quickly touch on it, these, the publishers absorbing these developers only to just liquidate them and lay people off, when it's these people that are putting in the hard work. The publishers are basically getting the credit for it. And we need to start basically holding the publishers to account, while at the same time really bigging up the developers.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think sometimes, like, we forget that some not everybody. I'm not one of these people, and not every gamer is like this. But sometimes there is this us and them mentality with the gaming community, and they kind of lump publishers and developers as one and the same, and they really aren't.
No.
And a lot of the key decisions being made, about the game and how it's marketed and how it's run and all these sorts of things, does come from the publisher, because that's where the money is coming from. You know what I mean? And obviously, it is a business, and obviously to continue to run and pay for those servers and everything, of course, Arrowhead need a wealthy publisher to be able to keep that game running, right? And I think they've done an incredible job, and so it's really sad, because Helldivers 2 as well, like, it's such a great, it is a games as a service done right. You know what I mean? Yes, there are microtransactions, but you can get everything on in game. The progression is perfectly like balanced in terms of unlocking things, and it's just really fun. It's just a really great game, and I love the fact that it's an evolving world, an evolving game that changes based on the community's actions and what they do. So I was really gutted like when Sony announced this, because I thought, finally, a publisher that is backing the developer, letting them make the game that they want to bloody make, and showing up other games like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, which is the complete opposite of Helldivers, and absolutely awful. And so when this happened with Sony, I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely gutted, because it just highlighted me, a developer's a developer, right? And clearly I think the impetus for this decision, for PSN, I mean, obviously there's different reasons for it. One of them may well be that they were trying to increase numbers of the number of users, right, on PlayStation accounts, and using that as some kind of like indicator of growth, for their kind of investors and everything. Clearly, I think Arrowhead did mention that having active PSN accounts may well make it easier to also like ban cheaters and grievers, and I was actually all for that. Anything that makes it easier for them to do that, I'm with. But I think they said it was something to do with legal, like the laws and regulations and stuff, making it easy to do that if you were a PSN user. I don't know whether that is correct or not because I'm not a lawyer.
I can't swear, so I'm going to say bull poop.
Bull poop, yeah. I think that was an excuse, really. I think it was more about showing growth and like for their investors. I think that's what it was all about.
Banning people, like me and Strife have never had a single situation where we've had to deal with stupid people. And even if there was, so like say someone was a griefer, you can literally block the audio chat straight away, and then you can even ban them from ever being in your party again, or ever seeing them. So there's you can literally control how you do stuff, and it doesn't affect them. They can still play the game. I think generally it is to inflate the numbers. In terms of my view on it, some of the things they might say might be might not be very popular, but I get 100% the argument for what's happened. I think Sony has been stupid in the way that if you're going to sell a game in over 170 countries, make sure that PSN is available to make an account for that. I think someone may have said, or maybe again I can't quote this if it's correct. Arrowhead may have said that those who have already bought the game in those countries can still play it, but any new players would have to have a PSN. But again, there's no excuse because effectively what Sony have done is when they have those games on the Steam platform, you can't. You sold a game that they can't play. My beef with it is so the similarities that kind of end there in terms of everyone else shouldn't get a free pass when it comes to making some kind of account, because on Xbox you've got to make an account to play Minecraft, you've got to make an account to play certain games. With EA, you have to have an EA account for things like FIFA, Mass Effect, for example.
Origin and all that.
Single player games as well, not even multiplayer games.
Ubisoft can
I hate
insert rude swearing phrase here. But I know the difference there is that with those type of situations, the games you can make that account in those countries. So I get that argument there. But those shouldn't get a free pass then, if people are having a go about Sony having to making a PSN account for the countries that can have the game. I would say that basically what I'm trying to say is this should open up the dialogue or conversation for, well, why the hell do we need to make an Ubisoft account? Why the heck do we need to make a? Because
clearly you don't.
No,
you don't. Clearly you don't, because you didn't with Helldivers too.
I don't get any benefit for having an EA account.
Make an account to be able to do crossplay. They've managed to somehow make crossplay work because we play on PC, you play on PlayStation, and it runs fine.
Sony have been terrible when it comes to crossplay, because if you look at any other franchises where we've said, like Monster Hunter for example, can we do crossplay? Absolutely, just not. And it annoys the crud out of me. In terms of the rest of it, I think fantastic community being able to help reverse that decision. I think it's a game that's going in the right direction for live service, as we've all said. It's very. I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, there's at least another 500. I think someone mentioned in an article, live service games in development right now, and the market isn't available for it. I think
they're still pulling at that string, aren't they?
And the fact that an Arrowhead have done, like with Live in Studios, with Baldur's Gate 3, doing really good there, and then this company, Arrowhead, making a live service game that isn't shafting us, I think is always good news. But I'm also kind of torn, because I don't think Sony are going to be probably as badly hit as Arrowhead is. Because Arrowhead, they'll have taken all that flack, even though they've said, "Oh, by all means, raise the bad reviews." They'll have been hit really hard with that, and Sony, they will still have how many people will have signed up for a PSN account just because they want to play the game? So they've got what they wanted, probably. So I don't know. I'm still in two minds about it. I think some people have taken it way overboard. But I understand the frustration and anger. But my view would be open up the discussion then for other account things you've got to sign up for. Because what do? They're getting your data pretty much.
And I think as well, because Sony's not had great track record as
Oh
well
no,
in terms of protecting people's private data. You remember that when they got hacked a few years ago.
Which was actually one of the arguments that they said, oh, it was for security, and then literally the community just came together and said, here are a few of the instances.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely, 100%. I 100% agree with you, Edge, completely. I think as well, like, I think that was my initial reaction. Was I felt really bad for Arrowhead initially, and as well, like a lot of development studios, you know, when you look at things like bonuses and stuff like that, a lot of the publishers do look at things like aggregate scores in terms of reviews and stuff like that. There've been crappy situations in the past where like you had to get a review score of like 80 or something just to get your bonuses, and I think there was like one studio that got like 79%, and the entire development team got shafted, even though that game sold millions of units, right, and must have made that publisher billions of pounds, right, in terms of sales. So yeah, it is the developer that definitely does suffer from it. Dante, you've been very quiet. Any thoughts on your side?
Most of my lines have been taken because
I thought there might have been. Yeah, that's fine. what you obviously, because you and I talked about your thoughts on review bombing and things like that, and thoughts about it going forward. Have you got anything that you can think that maybe you want to share?
Totally agree with what everyone else has already said, and I was probably going to bring up most of it as well. But yeah, the review bombing, I always thought of it as a massively negative thing, because you're absolutely cacking on top of the poor developer for something unrelated to the game. Like I always feel like reviews are for reviewing the game, not outside drama. Whether
like
it's
what happened with like Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, Hogwarts and stuff
year.
like that. It's like that's you're not reviewing the game here. You're doing whatever agenda here, whatever. But it's nothing to do with the actual game. And Arrowhead, like I say, they've been doing brilliant. It's an awesome game, and they've done live service correctly. So why should they have to suffer for it? Yeah. Hearing that one of their own were like, "Oh, just bomb it," right, makes me think that maybe there isn't then that much negative, or at least in this situation, like it might not affect bonuses or pay, or maybe they've got their money in their core now.
Yeah.
But there's still the odd people, like a lot of them are now going to try and get that review back into the positive and change it. Now it's now we've won, basically, as they keep saying. But there's still the odd stain person over there, like going, "Oh no, it's a stain on Sony's name, so and Helldivers are gonna be the example." And it's like, no, that Arrowhead are not at fault here, so put it back into the positives. Come on, it's not. It's. I just feel like there should be a better way of getting the voice heard when things like this happen. Like it's like, are we supposed to all just hit the support email address for Sony?
But
are we all supposed to like? But it gets the most views, if you know what I mean. So it's most
I think
visual.
Also it is seen by investors, right? Like this kind of thing, like numbers, right? Like refunds, right? And review bombs and scores and numerical things that have got weight to it. You know, that does matter.
Yeah. So has it screwed Arrowhead over a bit, or?
I don't know.
I think Arrowhead will recover quite well.
I think so.
Because they're very much within their community. Like I've heard leaks and I've seen some concepts, and I've also seen, I'm never going to call it X, don't care. I've seen it on Twitter with the a response from the CEO. With the review bomb and how it looked like, so it was all the blue bits and then the 4 red dips. They're actually making a cape to give to gamers, which I
think is awesome. I think that is
they've,
awesome.
they've certainly got the right attitude about.
Mm.
They're aware of it,
Yeah.
and I think it very much highlights that they, as the developers, going, yeah, we know what this is about. We get you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the developers haven't lost that goodwill of the player community. You know, they still have that good bond with the player community because they put so much work into that, right? And it just shows it can go with one mistake. You know what I mean? That is how suddenly it can turn. But I am really glad that the community have gone, yeah, this is clearly Sony, not Arrowhead, right? I think it was Sony anyway on the actual announcement. I think it did say thanks, Sony Interactive Entertainment. So I think the fact that it was Sony that announced it, which caused the bigger backlash, right?
Yeah.
I think if Arrowhead had sort of said, okay, we're turning it off temporarily at the start, but in so many months' time it will be a requirement. I think if they'd made that clear at the beginning, there probably would have been less backlash. But I think the fact that this has happened is potentially really powerful and really positive, and potentially could lead to positive change in the future for PC gaming when we have talked about all of the ridiculous third-party launches that we have to, and counts we have to make and stuff like that. I hope that this wave, this positivity can continue, because I do think it is ridiculous that we have to have multiple accounts on PC. I think it's crazy, right? How many launches you have to have on PC and how much of your personal data is getting shared right out there. It's just insane. Every time I boot up Steam and boot up like Mass Effect, EA app also boots up as well, right? And it's just really annoying. So I do hope that obviously that, you know, we can have some positive change for that in the future. You know, I guess we'll have to see. But also I think maybe it is definitely a sign that as a community, we are powerful and we can bring change and we can cause huge multi-billion-dollar companies and corporations to bend the knee. And there is so much wrong in the gaming community at the moment in terms of microtransactions and predatory things and the way in which they're treating their staff and stuff like that and employees. We really need to do more, right? And not just let these things pass. And so yeah, that's what I kind of hope, you know,
Just
from
make
this.
make sure they direct it at the right target.
The right people, yeah.
And don't be too crappy about it. Like,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
get the message across, but don't be an arse.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think-
absolutely.
I think people asking for the refund is the right thing, because the reality of it is, with all of these companies, there's only one thing you can do, which is vote with your wallet, because that's the only thing that they really will listen to. The moment their sales are impacted,
Yeah.
they'll pay attention.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep saying time and again about the whole pre-order thing. If, you know, don't pre-order their next game, because they basically will just see that as a, hey, look, you know, we've got a free right to just do what we want because you guys are going to buy it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think we'll leave that there today then. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this discussion. I really, really appreciate it, guys. I know you're all busy, so thank you so much for joining and just sharing your thoughts. That's our thoughts, obviously, on the news surrounding Helldivers 2 and obviously what happened. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you play Helldivers 2? What are your thoughts on the game? What did you think about the news? What are your thoughts on it? Please do share those in the comment section below. Make sure, of course, that you support the channel, as always, by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Hope you guys have a great week. Yes, it is week. It is a Tuesday. I'm so confused because it's been bank holiday like this weekend in the UK. I don't know what day it is. But yeah, have a great week wherever you are in the world. Take care, everybody. And as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was fun.